Number 106. Freilich and Shushan Perm Cutton, everybody. Welcome to another special edition of the TWI Wednesday discussion group. Glad you could be here.
And no, just that I think that if you're pulling your consciousness from the place of oneness, from the place of like all connected, and then these other ideas come up, that I just think that those ideas are like, I want to stay as much as possible in that connectedness, you know, and if something from my own emotional like place needs to go to the pop-up, it's an important one, you know, your house is on fire. Okay, then I'm going to go there. It's just that a lot of times we're bombarded all day long with thousands of negative thoughts and memories, and that those are not healthy. And that we need to know that we can laugh at ourselves that they're coming up. Oh, there you are again. But I don't think we should jump on every one of them, because I think we're going to lose our life if we do that and not be able to live in the present moment and not be able to enjoy life and experience like the best of it. So for me, it's been working. I mean, I've just been playing with that idea, but it worked in the sense that like, and you know, if something would come up, like somebody's acting rude to me, that would be there, but I'd be more concerned about I have a reaction to somebody acting rude to me. I don't say to them, that's your problem. You know, I'm not capable of doing that. And so I could go into that, but on the other hand, I could say, do I want to? Do I really want to like spend my time like evaluating myself? Or do I want to just say, that's what happens with me, quirky human being that I am, and let it go and get back to life? You know, that's my, like, I see a lot of people suffering from like just going into past relationships, past traumas, and they can really stay there, you know, literally forever. And I think it's just, you know, it's like unfortunate, you know, and not freeing. That's all.
Yeah. Well, certainly we here in this group and the Twerski Wellness Institute in general can clearly see that the current, I don't know how current it is anymore, but what's classically considered therapy, mining the past, thinking about the past, trying to figure out the past, or even trying to figure out the present, is not where the answers lie. That's not going to, we haven't found anything fruitful in that conversation. The question of how long have I been feeling this way? What's changed in your life that might have brought on this feeling? These types of questions. We haven't seen any value in that. We've been seeing a value in asking questions about, are there rules to psychology? Are there principles that govern the psychological experience? I mean, isn't it? It's sort of like not fair. They have principles in physics. They have principles in mathematics. They even have principles in aeronautics, and look what we can do with those. But by golly, they don't have principles in psychology. It's simply not fair. It's just it's been a big theoretical guessing game. And to make matters worse, a lot of those guesses and theoretical frameworks that have been created started to get accepted or treated like facts. Like we don't really know what creates feeling, but we guess it has something to do with your childhood. And somehow from there it turned into, yeah, your childhood affects who you are as an adult. I mean, it creates feeling for you. Now, when did that happen? Where's the scientific map for that? It doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. But we've found a psychological map. We've found principles. And we are, for those of us who are getting to appreciate what those principles are getting to get aligned with those principles instead of trying to live life fighting them. Instead of fighting, I mean, imagine trying to fight gravity or fight addition. Like it's not going to end well. It's probably going to end like an egg against a brick wall. I mean, that's physics is physics. You can't fight with it. E equals MC squared. You throw an egg at the wall, it's going to break. And psychologically, we've been fighting these innocently, struggling against life because we haven't had principles. And with the advent of principles, we've finally been given an opportunity to be honest with ourselves about what's happening to us psychologically, about why we find ourselves where we are psychologically. And the more those principles have come into focus, the more theory falls away. The more of these guessed up ideas about why people are the way they are falls away, because the principles are concrete. They're absolute. There are only 3 principles that together create a single paradigm that explain all human experience. There is no exception to these principles. There isn't a single human experience that was ever had that did not derive and come alive from something other than these 3 principles. We don't even have to know exactly what the 3 principles are in order to benefit from them. We can just see what they are not and benefit from them. Nowhere in these principles is the principle of childhood. No such principle exists. The principle of societal norms doesn't exist. It's not one of the 3 principles. There's only 3 principles. The principle of a good night's sleep, not a principle. Not in any which way, manner, or form, a determining factor that contributes to how you find yourself feeling in a moment. Now that sounds a little nutty because it's so deeply rooted, the idea that not getting enough sleep is psychologically unhealthy. It's so widely accepted that growing up in a certain type of household determines a person's adult behavior. So as we kind of glean these principles, and that's why the principles are so important to look at. They're so important to get a grasp of them. And to understand the true psychological formula is to understand what is not the true psychological formula. By extension, you're going to have all these ideas, like the one we started with, this inner child idea. Is there a principle of the inner childhood? No, there is not. At least not in the 3 principles understanding. Not in the 3 principles understanding. I mean, everyone has to have their own. You got to come up with your own understanding of how life works. But as you look at the 3 principles understanding, it will start to come into focus for you that there is no principle called the inner child, like a 4th principle or a 5th principle. It's just these 3: mind, consciousness, and thought. They are universal principles that govern all psychological experience. They operate only at one moment in time, now. To generate and display for you the feeling that you currently have. The principles of mind, consciousness, and thought begin and end within your own soul. It's your own little world. It is a closed system. It does not bounce around in the world. It creates the world in which you find yourself, at least psychologically. Pop-ups, if we're going to use a pop-up metaphor, to me at least, and this is just me. I'm not saying that anyone else is wrong. This is just me. Yeah, no one has to kind of take my word for it. I'm just expressing what I know, and I kind of feel bad because I don't want to discourage other people from saying how they see things. I mean, everyone's insights are valuable, I believe, but for me, every moment is a pop-up. It doesn't seem like it, because the pop-up is so real, it's so felt, you're so in it that it's not apparent where it came from. All that's apparent is that I stubbed my toe on the ground and it hurts. Or you yelled at me for something that I didn't deserve and it hurts. All I can see is there's things going on around in the world around me, and there's things going on inside me emotionally, and I don't see anything else. That's all that I see. So naturally, if someone doesn't have the awareness of its source, there's going to be little choice but to try to make connections between the world around you and the feeling you have inside. And that's a dangerous proposition. But once we make that proposition, we in essence are making this big declaration. Fact. Stimuli instigate feelings within me. I get triggered. Not all the time, but sometimes. Triggers are suddenly a real thing. Fact, I need a safe space. Okay? Also, just a natural outgrowth of a logic that says my feelings are coming from the world around me. Fact, giving up on life, giving up on ever finding well-being and resilience makes perfect sense. It's logical to give up, particularly when the big bad world is just too difficult for me to be able to change it. I think people are bright enough to recognize when they can't change the world. And so out of the fact that the world makes me feel how I happen to feel, naturally will lead to someone who can't ever kind of get the world into the order they need it to be in order to have a positive feeling. Well, yush, giving up, despair, is a logical conclusion. It's a factual conclusion. It's part of the inevitable journey that we often go on that starts with this simple misunderstanding of what's happening to us psychologically. Fact, people can break. Someone can have a psychological experience for a certain amount of time or a long enough time that they break beyond any hope of recovery. That can happen. There's a whole bunch of these facts that derive and come alive out of a single thought. And what's the single thought? The thought or idea that I can be triggered. I can be made to feel a way that I do or do not want to feel by virtue of the world around me. That approach, that innocent mistake, and all the facts that we innocently create or conclude out of that one original fact, all gets cleared away in a single moment of insight. It never was true. I never was ever triggered by anything in the world around me or my past. I'm always only ever in the feeling of my thinking that is coming alive, deriving and coming alive in this moment via the three principles. That's what I'm feeling. I can handle that. I can handle that truth. There is factually never a time to despair, because any previous moment in no way limits me from the next moment finding recovery and insight and freedom. Fact, I cannot despair, not because I'm inspired not to despair, but fact. How would I ever despair on something that only lasts for a moment? How would I ever despair on a system that is free and infinite to create all kinds of things that I cannot yet predict? Fact, no one can ever break so completely that they cannot recover. Fact, I don't need safe spaces. I can handle this feeling. Fact, I'm responsible, not the world. It's something happening in me, this feeling. I can look at it squarely in the face and try to learn from it whatever I can. Sometimes I'll learn from it, sometimes I won't. Fact, sometimes I see this truth, sometimes I don't. They are both a part of the divine order of things, whether I'm experiencing the truth of the three principles in the moment, or whether I've completely lost sight of it and I'm once again back to running away from life. Well, all of that happens through the three principles. There's nothing broken about that. Sometimes I'm connected, sometimes I am not. There isn't even a need to pursue this one particular experience of feeling connected. I get to see that no matter what I am feeling, I am connected. If you can see that there's literally nowhere to go in order to gain connection, that you are already connected, whatever that connected word means, whatever you're connected to. Maybe you get a sense of what I mean by that. No more words are coming to me in that regard. But if you can see that you are connected through all of it, that means you've changed. That means the old theories and beliefs about experience and about how you should be or could be have died, and you're free to experience all of it and wrestle with all of it, or not wrestle with all of it. The child within has no relevance for me. If it means my past, I don't see how it has any relevance. I don't see how it pertains to what's potentially available for me now. Can I learn from my past? I guess there's things there. I mean, We can look at history and learn from history, sure. But in no way, and we can learn this from history as well, in no way does history determine the next moment. It is the surprises in life that keep us in the game, so to speak. That's why we play. That's why we play. Because you never know. You never know who's going to win the game. You never know what's going to end up on top. You never know what's going to happen. So we play. Lo yalecha ligmar, Chazal say in Avos, it is not incumbent upon you to finish the job. And nor are you excused from being engaged in it. They're both simultaneously true. Go ahead, Bela.
I just wanted to when you said connected and you didn't know exactly how to describe connected, what came to my mind was we're all connected to the source of all life, all thought, all experience, and all possibility. And knowing that we're connected to that just opens up the now and the future in a very positive way.
Mm. Thank you for filling in the blank there. Somebody sent me I don't know if it's a poem or I'm not really sure what it was, but I'll read it and see if it resonates. Why, I thought, too many people think that gems are all in Bond Street. They seem to ignore that gems are in the enameled spots on fishes, in the eyes of birds, in the blackberry shining in the September hedge. My occupations did not go unnoticed by my exceedingly curious brother, Steve. Oh, he would cry impatiently, why do you spend hours and hours staring at a fallen leaf? What a fool you are. Do you expect it to turn into gold? But it did turn into gold, something better than gold. When I look at the falling leaf, it looks back at me, and though it is a small thing, it is a symbol of a whole wide universe, speaking to me of that hidden harmony binding all. The fallen leaf is a world in itself, a miracle growing, unfolding, and dying to requicken the cycle to begin again. Deathless it is and beautiful. Its poetic significance moves me in a look from mortal life into life everlasting. I thought that was nice, so I would share.